Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom. I'm David Mensa, Israeli government spokesman. Today is Tuesday, the 4th of June, day 242 of the October 7th war, when Hamas's army of terror invaded our border. Israel's conditions for ending the war have not changed. The destruction of Hamas's military and governing capabilities, the freeing of all 124 hostages, and ensuring that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. All of our objectives are within reach. Israel will not compromise on any of them. The precise framework proposed by Israel during the negotiations maintain these principles while establishing conditions for transition between the stages. Now, Hamas is preventing a hostage release deal. It unreasonably demands that the IDF exit the Gaza Strip and end the war. We will not leave Hamas in power so that they can repeat their rocket fire and the October 7th massacre. Now, the hostages. Last night, the IDF shared the devastating news with the families of 85-year-old Amiram Cooper, one of the founders of the Kibbutz Nir Oz. 80-year-old Chaim Perry, also from Kibbutz Nir Oz. 80-year-old Yoram Metzger, also from Kibbutz Nir Oz. And 51-year-old Israeli-British citizen Nadav Popplewell from Kibbutz Nirim. The IDF had the unenviable and sad task to tell their loved ones that their hostage relatives were killed a few months ago while in Hamas captivity in Gaza. To add to the cruelty, their bodies are still being held by Hamas. May their memories be a blessing. To the north now, where Iran's proxy Hezbollah have increased rocket, drone and mortar fire against Israel. These attacks have caused significant fires. During last night, after more than 9 hours of firefighting, the fire crews brought the Amiyad fire under control. 18 firefighting teams from the north, from coastal and central districts, worked to gain control of fires alongside police and others. This morning, 4 planes from the Elad Air Firefighting Squadron were launched to help the firefighting teams get fires under control. Firefighters have worked throughout the night with very high intensity, great determination, and for long hours. In Kiryat Shmona and Kfar Giladi, in the north, firefighters extinguished fires and carried out containment operations. Together with emergency teams of Kfar Giladi, the forces stopped the fire and prevented the spread of fire to damage property. The same happened in Keren Naftali and other areas in the northern district, who've also been fighting fires for almost 24 hours in extreme weather conditions, while striving to reach out and save lives and prevent damage to property. This is not a sustainable reality. Israel's northern residents, tens of thousands of them, evacuated, will not live under such threat. The Israeli government is committed to ensure their security and the return to their homes. It is up to Hezbollah to decide if this can be accomplished by diplomatic means or by force. You know, since October 7th and these attacks from the Lebanese border region, the IDF today confirmed over 100 terrorists eliminated through precise, high-quality, intelligence-led Israeli strikes. Ladies and gentlemen, this country will be defended. We are defending this country, and no one should be surprised by our response. Hezbollah, just like Hamas, have the same Iranian-inspired script to start wars, then to lose them, all the while to cry victim and then repeat. Next, the Prime Minister yesterday appeared at the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defence Committee. He briefed the committee on the progress of the war in Gaza, with an emphasis on our limited and targeted activity in Rafah, the Philadelphia corridor, negotiations to release our hostages, the issue of the day after the war, Judea and Samaria, West Bank, and Iran. The Prime Minister said, quote, "The claims that we have agreed to a ceasefire without our conditions being met are incorrect," end quote. Now, tomorrow we mark 57 years since the reunification of Jerusalem, our eternal capital. The Jewish people have had an unbreakable bond with Jerusalem, and the State of Israel has established its institutions of government and law there, the foundations of the only democratic state in the Middle East. You know, Jerusalem was the capital of the Jewish people when London was still a swamp and a mere bend in the River Thames. In Jerusalem, there is freedom of religion and worship for all religions. Indeed, the only time there has ever been freedom of access to all religious sites in Jerusalem has been since the city was reunified in 1967. So there's much to celebrate. Now an update from COGAT and their work coordinating aid into Gaza. Just a few hours ago, UNRWA complained that there was almost no fuel available in Gaza to operate critical plants. They called on Israel to provide access to water. So once again, today, UNRWA can tick that propaganda box on their checklist on their ongoing mission to embitter the lives of Gazans and perpetuate this conflict. So here are the facts. As we like to say here, the facts don't lie. The UN can bring fuel into Gaza every single day. They choose not to. In the last week of May, UNRWA coordinated 670,000 litres of fuel. It could have been double that amount. So UNRWA, instead of pointing the finger at Israel, maybe try taking responsibility for the things in your own control. UNRWA is unfortunately a hopelessly inefficient organisation. In contrast, yesterday, COGAT got 259 aid trucks into Gaza, 222 trucks via the Kerem Shalom crossing, 37 trucks via the Erez crossing. Israel won't stop expanding our efforts to facilitate humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Since the beginning of the war, 31,000 trucks delivering more than 600,000 tons of humanitarian aid have entered Gaza. We are continuing to expand our efforts to facilitate humanitarian aid into Gaza. So that's the end of our briefing today. I will now take your questions, which you should put in the chat with your news outlet. The first question we have today excuse me, is from from Dan Williams at Reuters. And Dan asks, Qatar said today that it has yet to receive a clear Israeli position to wind down the Gaza war. What is Israel's position, and when will it be submitted? Thank you very much for that question, Dan. I haven't got anything to add on what Qatar has said and what they have or have not received. Of course, the position of the Israeli government when it comes to these negotiations is highly sensitive. Lives literally hang in the balance. The Israeli position is being made clear, but the principles which we have laid out of the three aims of this war: number one, to ensure that Gaza no longer forms a threat to our people and to Israel and to anyone in the civilized world, to get back our hostages, to bring them home, all of them, the live ones, unfortunately the ones who've been killed, all of them, to bring them home, every single one of them. It occupies every single moment of every waking hour of every day, and for many Israelis, their sleeping hours as well. and of course ensure that Hamas no longer has any military or civilian or governing power over Hamas. Those principles run right through all of the submissions we have submitted. Second question from Dan Williams at Reuters: When will the Prime Minister address Congress, and will he fly to Washington aboard the Wing of Zion? I take it that means the name of the aircraft. So on when the Prime Minister will address Congress over the weekend, it's true the Prime Minister did receive an invitation to address a joint meeting of Houses of Congress. So the Prime Minister has accepted that invitation, and he will be the first leader of a country to address both Houses of Congress for a record fourth time. When he received the invitation, the Prime Minister said, "I'm very moved to have," quote, "I'm very moved to have the privilege of representing Israel before both Houses of Congress and to present the truth about our just war against those who seek to destroy us to the representatives of the American people and the entire world." As for the address, as for the date of that visit to Washington, D.C., the Prime Minister announced yesterday that it would not be the 13th of June, which had been talked about, because that coincides with the Jewish holiday of Shavuot, and dates are currently being coordinated. From Joel Pollack at Breitbart News, his first question is: can Israel fight two wars at once if a larger scale war erupts in southern Lebanon? Thank you very much for that question, Joel. No one should be in any doubt of the IDF's ability to fight the threats against us. You know, it's not just in the war against Hamas in Gaza, but also the war against Hezbollah. This is a seven-fronted war. We're being attacked from Yemen, Judea and Samaria in the West Bank, where a terrorist attack was just thwarted just yesterday, from Iran, Iraq, Syria, and of course Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. A seven-fronted war. I would say to you, Joel, no one should be in any doubt whatsoever of Israel's ability to defend itself. Second question from Joel Pollack: how does Israel view the US resolution announced yesterday at the United Nations Security Council to support the Biden administration's ceasefire deal proposal? Thank you very much for that question, Joel. I don't have any further information on Israel's reaction to any proposed UN resolution. Further question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News: the US State Department continues to insist that the proposal for a ceasefire was in fact Israel's proposal. Can you kindly tell us who wrote the proposal and approved it? Was it the Security Cabinet, the War Cabinet, or some other body? Why did the government debate the proposal after Biden announced if it was an Israeli proposal? Thank you very much for that, Joel. So the Prime Minister has made clear his views on that matter. He's made clear his views in the Knesset yesterday, and subsequently to a direct message which was put out. They're available on the Prime Minister's website. You can see the Prime Minister's response to that question.